I was working with a man. He was divorced. He had no children, and the family was not nearby, and he was actually dying. He didn't really think he was dying. He was on oxygen full time, and he would smoke. So as I got to know him, I said, will you do me a favor? Will you turn off the concentrator before you light the match? He says, for you, okay. So we did not blow up his house, nor the neighborhood, I'm happy to say. It's not like PG&E thanked me privately. It's not that. I'm just saying it was a little frightening every time I went. The family said, we're not local. Can you please go and visit him on a regular basis as he's declining, and can you please get him onto disability? So I did that legwork and that research to get him onto disability. I also brought in hospice because even though he didn't think he was dying, I knew from talking with the medical practitioners and from the repeated hospitalizations that his condition was getting a lot worse. And I was able to work with him really closely to get in those caregivers who ended up living with him. He was taking morphine for pain at the end and had some confusion and some hallucinations. And I'll never forget, I went over one time and he said, you see her? I said, yes. He said, they're switching out caregivers. He said, the lady I normally have here left and she made that woman come. Well, it was the exact same woman who's always been there. So here I am sitting on the couch, torn between what we call reality orientation of no, that is Stella still, versus, yeah, I don't know, we're going to have to see about that. They shouldn't be doing that. We should always have consistent caregivers, you know. And this particular gentleman I had enough of rapport with, and I could see he was really troubled by the fact that they were switching out caregivers on him. But I put my arm and I said, you know, Mr. So-and-so, I said, that is the same caregiver. I said, you're on medication that's changed how you're perceiving things. He goes, yeah, I'm on a lot of morphine. I said, you really are at this point, and I don't want you to worry. I said, that is the exact same caregiver. And he said, she is? I said, yeah. So he said, man, like he shook his head, like, I'm losing it. And it was really painful. There's a lot of really tender moments in care management because you're working so personally with one person, one-on-one. And I always tell people when they call me to do an intake, which we all do for free, you call us, tell us what's going on, and we'll figure out if we can help you. I'll always say, listen, I'm not the only caregiver on the block, not in the county. You know, if you feel like this isn't quite the connection on the phone that you're looking for, please let me give you the name of colleagues. You know, it will not hurt my feelings. Maybe you want a man. Maybe you want somebody with an RN background. Maybe I have a woman who's very cold and more clinical. And sometimes that's just right for people in terms of boundaries and setting limits. I tend to hug my clients. I tend to joke a lot. I tend to be pretty direct and pretty honest with them as well. So you have to figure out when you're hiring somebody who's going to be the right fit for you or for your mom or for your dad or aunt or grandma and stuff like that. We did get the benefits awarded a month before he died. So the family was thrilled that he got something, but we had no idea he was going to go that quickly. So that's the denouement of that story. Meals, nutrition. A lot of people that have memory loss are not throwing out stuff from their refrigerator, and we call it science experiments in our business. I also have a lot of hoarders that I go to see. And so I say, this is what you do as part of your assessment. You're like, oh, you know, do you think I could have a cup of tea? Well, they'll say, sure. They'll put the pot on. They'll come back to me. There's never a cup that's taken out of the cabinet. There's no tea bag. There's no cream, no sugar. I'm already doing my memory testing with just asking for a cup of tea, but in a really gentle way. I'll say, oh, I'll get the cream, and I'll go and I'll get the refrigerator. You know, I'll open the refrigerator, and I'll see that it's just piled deep with furry things. I know that person's not eating well and taking care of themselves. Any of that would have given them food poisoning. But if I say, gee, you know, what are you eating for dinner tonight? Maybe they're going to tell me they're going to go shopping. Maybe they're going to say I don't have much. You know, I have to see what their perception is of how they're living with that refrigerator. In this particular woman's case, a lot of people tell me they don't want Meals on Wheels. Even if they haven't had them, they'll say, I don't want Meals on Wheels. So this lady had a lot of money. She was a millionaire. She was a gourmet cook. She went to Whole Foods every single day. if ever there was an earthquake, I am going to Mrs. So-and-so's house because she had a pantry that would have fed the entire neighborhood a good month. I got, you know, like orange juice and some cheese in my house. You know, you don't want to come to my house in an earthquake. So she was on oxygen. She had had lung surgery for cancer, and she was having trouble standing at the kitchen cooking the meals that she used to. This is a lady who would blanch her asparagus at 85 and then put it in the ice bath and take it out. I mean, this is somebody who loved to cook. So I said, why don't we get you someone who's a gourmet cook to cook for you, like a delivery service that they're doing for a lot of busy professionals. So we tried 2 of those, and they all were crap. They all tasted the same. Don't bother her. Absolutely not. Okay. How about I get a personal chef in here and cook? All right, she would see to that. So this woman came. She was a professional personal chef. She put up all the meals, and she's got to come too far. I don't like having to save all the containers. No. And this is, so we looked at medical cannabis because she actually had a decreased appetite too. So that was some of the medication I think might have been changing how things tasted. So she tried smoking it. She tried ghee, which is the butter with it in it. And then she tried suckers, and then she tried brownies. You know what she told me? I said, how's that working? Is it stimulating your appetite, Mrs. So-and-so? You know what she said? There's only so many brownies a woman can eat. So ultimately, we were able to get a woman who came after her shift at Whole Foods every single day to come in and cook. And that woman did it right. And you know why? Because she was lonely. The ultimate goal was companionship, but I never would have been able to tell my client that. And she wasn't going to be able to articulate to me. It was always about the food and about things not tasting right, and her inability to stand there and do it. So she was really happy once we had someone in there every day. My last story is money. I had a woman who also never married, didn't have any kids, and had what we call diminished executive functioning. Her judgment was really poor, this part of the brain right here. Okay. Anyway, she could get up and she could bathe herself, she could dress herself, she could take care of herself, but her decisions around money were terrible. So much so, when her plumbing went out, she didn't get her plumbing fixed. When her heat went out, she didn't get her heating fixed. When the holes in the roof started to have plants coming through, she didn't get the roof fixed. Now, we had hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank, but we didn't have the connection there with how to take care of the money. So this person bought undergarments that were disposable to wear instead of fixing the plumbing. It was really hard for her to take them out of the home, so they just piled up in the house. So some issues here. This person needed surgery, and that's how they actually liked a lot of supplements and vitamins that they would buy that they heard on the radio and the TV. Took so many of one, got dehydrated so badly in their bed that they thought they were dying. After 3 days, the EMTs found the person covered in fecal matter and totally dehydrated. And the only reason she called for 911 was because she thought she was dying and it was the end of her life. So she entered the medical system. She had had a bad experience with hospitals as a kid. So that's how she got to be 80 and never any medical care. Anyway, she ended up needing surgery. So I was in the hospital with her when she got her surgery, then back to the skilled nursing facility, then back for more surgery, then back to the skilled nursing. And I got her a professional fiduciary, who is somebody who's licensed in the state of California to pay your bills and manage your money. So we sort of safeguarded her in that area, and we got her into a care home. She's happy as a clam. That professional investor sits side by side with her, writes the checks with her, sold her house, sold the car, and she's just a lot happier now. Whenever I see her, she's just, I think she just feels more secure now. So that's the story of that with money. And I just wanted to let you know that part of what a care manager does is that we dedicate ourselves to the minutia of day-to-day life. So whereas the adult kids aren't going to make the follow-up phone call to the long-term care insurance company, they're going to miss the call from the social worker from the hospital, they're going to forget to follow up with their mom or dad about something, that's all I do all day, is I make sure all those little pieces are handled, which is why you keep like what we call a small caseload, because you can't have 42 people that you're ministering to in that way. So a typical caseload for me might be 8 individuals. But if people are on hospice and they're in the process of dying, I may need to drop what I'm doing and make sure that I'm right there at their bedside. So I can't have 6 of those people. There's only one me. So when you're choosing a care manager, you want to ask, you know, how many clients do you have, and what is the acuity? How sick are these people? How are you managing your balance? So, I mean, that's pretty much what we do in a nutshell, and I'm hoping, as I say, that by the end of this that you feel comfortable calling an elder care manager for help. There's a radio flyer outside if you'd like to listen to the radio show or any podcasts. You can leave your card if you'd like to be added to the list. It's been a real pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you so much.